Hey there, drowsy historian here tonight. You're an imported servant, overlooked, fading silently into the cracks of colonial Singapore. You own no shoes. You ask no questions. You inhabit the corners, breathe in the mildew, and scrub the footsteps of men who'll never learn your name. You rise before dawn. You sleep beside the stove. And when your body fails, another will take your place. Just as silent, just as forgotten. Before the floor cools and the bell summons you back to duty, do me one small favor. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. I love seeing who tunes in from across the globe. If you'd like early access to these slow, quiet journeys into history's neglected corners, ad-free episode audio, or simply wish to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link below. But for now, settle in, get comfortable. Let's begin. The ship bringing you to Singapore isn't a vessel so much as a floating pit. The hold sits low, the walls sweat. Men packed so tight their ribs touch when breathing. Some are older, some barely boys. A few, like you, still carry traces of ash behind their ears or red threads around their wrists. Rituals that once meant something, back when you still understood who you were. The scent of sandalwood fades quickly. The stench of mildew and diarrhea does not. You didn't board willingly. If you did, a man promised wages, food, work. Said you'd send money home. Said it beat the fields, beat debt, beat shame. What he didn't mention was the rope, the hunger. The boy who died curled beside you on the third day, eyes open to the darkness. When the hatch opens, it's not freedom greeting you, just light. Blinding, furious light, and a slap of humid air coating your lungs. Singapore doesn't shimmer like some land of opportunity. It pulses. The docks throb with noise, shouts in too many tongues, metal clanging, flags snapping, and always the birds screaming into that white sky. You blink hard against the glare, unsure if you're standing or swaying. The man behind pushes and suddenly you're moving, filing down the gangplank in silence. Bare feet slapping wood, ankles burning where the ropes bit in. The air reeks of fish, coal, sweat, and sugar left too long in sun. You're herded into line beside tea crates and leaking flour sacks. No one asks your name. No one meets your eyes. A clerk in a white helmet inspects each man like livestock, tilting chins, checking teeth, prodding ribs. His Chinese assistant scratches notes in a ledger, waves the next body forward. You're not told where you're going, not told why. You move because the line moves, because standing still draws attention. And attention, you already understand, is danger. A cart waits dockside, just planks on wheels drawn by a weary ox. The driver chews something red, spitting every few seconds. He doesn't look at you. None of them do. You climb in with 5 others, some in loincloths like yours, one clutching a cloth bundle smelling of smoke and old coconut oil. You sit because there's nowhere to stand. The city rolls by in jarring fragments. Tin-roofed go-downs, English bungalows with shuttered windows, alleyways slick with runoff and flies. A Chinese woman guts fish over a basin. A man in a Dota fans himself with folded newspaper. It all blends into heat and motion, like stepping into someone else's recurring dream, humid and inescapable. Eventually the cart creaks to a stop in a high-walled lane. Behind one wall waits a house, clean, white, quiet, the kind only an Englishman would occupy. The gate swings open, revealing a man in polished shoes and pressed shirt, his gaze dismissing everything as temporary. He glances at you, speaks sharply to the driver. A coin changes hands. The cart leaves. You stay. No explanation needed. You're already property. He gestures. You follow through the side gate, past a rainwater-filled basin, under jackfruit branches smelling faintly of sour milk. Let around back. You note mold-streaked walls, but scrub-clean tiles. You step over a sleeping dog into a shadow-cooled corridor smelling of kerosene, lime soap, and boiled meat. A sluggish fan stirs the thick air. A woman in faded sari appears wordlessly, points to a cloth bundle on a bench, vanishes. You pick it up, a uniform. Following her outside to the servants' courtyard. There's no ceremony, no explanation. She elbows open a wooden door, points to a corner. You enter. For walls. A mat. A cracked basin. No pillow. No light. You understand instantly. This is where you'll sleep. If not now, soon. If not you, someone like you. You sit. The uniform lies warm in your lap from the sun. Your legs ache, but you don't stretch them. You listen. A bell rings deep in the house. A voice barks a name not yours. A door slams. Then silence, the thick kind that doesn't soothe. The kind that listens back. You're not told what to do next. Not told what you are. But you've arrived. Time blurs as you stand holding the uniform bundle. The walls press at odd angles. Footsteps pass in pairs outside. Laughter echoes sharply, dies quickly. You stand where left because no one said otherwise. Even this feels like obedience. Eventually you unwrap the bundle. The uniform stiff from sun and starch. The collar scratches. Seams sit uneven, one button missing. It smells faintly of camphor and someone else's sweat. The trousers sit wide and short at the ankles. The tunic won't close properly. It wasn't made for you. You put it on anyway. Not doing so might be noticed. And being noticed here is a risk you can't yet measure. Stepping outside, the light burns again. The sun's barely shifted. The courtyard stays half-shadowed, half-bleached, silent in that particular way busy places fall quiet when you don't belong. Two men pass, carrying a laundry basket between them. Neither looks your way. A woman scrubs back steps with quick, practiced circles, never pausing, never speaking. You fall into step behind her, unsure if following's permitted or foolish. No one stops you, so you continue. Through a narrow doorway, into a hallway smelling of polish and vinegar. The tiles feel cool and damp underfoot. Your toes slip on wet patches. You catch yourself before falling. No one sees. Or if they do, they don't care. The hallway widens into a kitchen. Not a Tamil kitchen with turmeric stains and curry leaves, but an English one. Clean, square, built for function, not comfort. A large pot simmers on the stove. The imported firewood burns too fast, too dry. Everything feels wrong. Sharp edges where warmth should be, silence where rhythm belongs. A servant with rolled-up sleeves stops before you. Older, possibly Jaffna Tamil or Malayali. He looks at your face briefly, then points to a half-filled water bucket by the doorway. You pick it up without hesitation. The bucket's half-filled already, water lukewarm against your palms. You cradle it carefully, uncertain where to go until the older servant turns and starts walking. You follow, trailing him to a back room where marble floors gleam like temple courtyards. Without speaking, he points to a rag and gestures at the baseboards. You kneel immediately. The tile bites through your thin trousers, pressing like bones against your knees. You begin wiping, methodically, waiting for correction that doesn't come. No one tells you if you're doing it right. They won't need to. You'll know soon enough if it's wrong. The work carries its own muted rhythm, not peaceful, just subdued. The house murmurs around you, floorboards creaking overhead, insects buzzing against window panes, the precise clink of spoon against porcelain somewhere beyond the wall. A child runs past the doorway, white shoes flashing against tile. A woman calls after him, her voice clipped, unfamiliar, amused. You don't understand the words, but recognize the tone. It wasn't meant for you. After some unmeasured time, the man returns. He takes the bucket without acknowledgement, disappears, doesn't return. You rise slowly, knees stiff, palms red and raw from pressing the rag. Waiting in the hallway, you hover uncertainly until another figure appears. Younger, wearing the same ill-fitting tunic, though his looks cleaner. He nods toward the stairs, then the front door, then away. The gestures make little sense, but you nod anyway, pretending comprehension. No food is offered. No explanations given. No instructions beyond movement. You follow others when they pass, mimicking their pace, their gestures. You carry linens to rooms you're forbidden to look into. You empty basins into trenches behind garden walls. You hold trays while someone adjusts vases. Each task feels like another test. Every silence carries judgment. The compound reveals itself as larger than first apparent. Rooms opening into rooms, none marked. Some doors perpetually closed, others swinging open at odd intervals to reveal surreal glimpses. Tables glittering with silverware, a British woman dabbing her neck with a cloth, a pale foot dangling from a chair. You learn not to stare. You keep your head lowered, hands at your sides. This seems safest. By late afternoon, your legs tremble from standing. Your stomach aches dully. Not sharp hunger, just hollow emptiness that's settled in. Passing a corridor, you see other servants crouched near walls, eating with fingers from metal bowls. No one offers you a place. You don't ask. You're not even certain you're counted among them yet. You move on. Eventually, the older servant finds you again. Without words, he gestures for you to follow, leading through low corridors back to the servants' quarters. The fading sun paints white walls yellow. He opens a door, points to a corner where a rolled mat lies beside a cracked ceramic bowl and bundle of old cloth. You understand instantly, this is where you'll sleep. You nod, but he's already walking away. Closing the door, you sit carefully. The mat offers no cushion. The floor feels harder than it looks. Stretching your legs brings little relief. Your body already feels used, not from one day's labor, but from the weight of countless identical days stretching ahead. Outside, birds call, one sharp whistle, a chorus of replies, then silence. Not comforting silence, the kind that makes you feel impossibly far from anywhere you've ever belonged. Lying back, you mind your elbows against the hard floor. The humid air clings like a second skin. Mildew and dust scent every breath. Closing your eyes, you avoid thoughts of home. Not because you've forgotten, but because remembering hurts more than forgetting. Your first day ends with your body already sore, your spirit already diminished. You wake before the bell rings, not by intention. Your body no longer remembers proper sleep. It rests like animals do, tense and shallow, ready to move before being told. The room's air hangs warm already, your skin sticking to the mat beneath. Sitting up makes your spine crack loudly. You wince, but no one hears. Outside, mist clings to the courtyard like wet cloth. Older servants move silently as ghosts. One glances at you, then away. Another pours water from a clay jug into a tin basin, begins washing. You follow suit, though the water stings your cracked skin. You scrub quickly, not to feel clean, but to avoid notice. Your uniform remains damp from yesterday's sweat, having never dried properly. Neither have you. You pull it on regardless, stepping into the corridor as first light spills through high windows. Somewhere in the house's depths, a bell rings once, thin, metallic, decisive. You don't understand its meaning yet, but when others react, you mirror them. Your first task, hauling water from the pump. The buckets strain your arms even half full, handles biting into your palms. The pump itself complains more than you do, rusted, slow, loud. You carry buckets in pairs, balancing their weight, careful on slick tiles. No one tells you where to take them. You guess, one for the laundry stove, another for the upstairs bath. A third sits untouched outside the kitchen until someone kicks it over, cursing in Tamil mixed with something harsher. It was in the wrong place. Next comes floor scrubbing, hallways, verandas, stairwells with corners that trap dirt like secrets. You're given a rag and tin of cloudy lime-scented soap that quickly loses its fragrance. The rag leaves streaks when tiles dry too fast, earning reprimands before you understand the problem. You nod, apologize in the wrong language, redo the entire section on hands and knees. The work stretches endlessly. You wash linens until fingers prune and nail beds turn white. You sweep courtyards where leaves fall faster than you can gather them. You chop vegetables you'll never taste, bitter gourd, onions, potatoes faintly spoiled. You stir pots others taste, frown at, salt without telling you how much. You stand fanning rooms while an English woman reads aloud from papers, occasionally shouting words you don't understand. You nod anyway. Nodding is safe. The heat builds relentlessly. Even mornings feel swollen, oppressive, stealing breath. You sweat through your tunic before breakfast is served. The sweat never dries, just clings to your back and neck, drips down your legs, streaking the floors you've just cleaned. Your skin begins itching, but you don't scratch. That would mean pausing, and pausing means being seen. No one tells you when to eat. Servants like you don't merit schedules. You linger near the kitchen wall until someone tosses you scraps from a banana leaf, cold rice, half a fried dough strip, watery lentil mash leaking between fingers. You crouch near the stove to eat, where ashes are swept into neat piles. The floor is cleaner than your food. You don't taste it. You just finish it. Afterward, you haul more water, chop more roots, sweep a storeroom where something has died, rat perhaps, or something larger. The stench coats your throat, waters your eyes. No mask or cloth is offered. Use your sleeve and keep working. The storeroom's darkness hides corners never fully cleaned. You step on something soft, recoil, but no one explains what it was. You don't ask. Later, you stand beside the laundry stove's iron pot, steam scalding your face as boiling water sloshes. The woman beside you hums under her breath, a tune almost familiar, but altered by time and distance. She doesn't look at you, just hands over a sheet to dunk, stir, lift, wring with both arms. The cloth burns. You do it anyway. Afternoons bring slight rhythm changes. The family rests. Fans whirl faster. Tea is poured quieter. The work continues unchanged. You polish brass door frames, cabinet knobs, trays that someone immediately dirties again. You're called twice by name, except it's not your name. It's what the Englishman says when he forgets who he's addressing. Other servants answer to it too. It doesn't matter who they met. There are no breaks. Not truly. You crouch hallway corners for stolen minutes, wiping your forehead with your tunic's edge. A child passes dragging a wheeled toy, looking at you as one looks at furniture. You look down as you've learned to do. The toy clatters away. You wait for silence before returning to the stairs. There are footprints needing scrubbing. As the sun begins its descent, the labor doesn't cease. It merely shifts shape. Now you're lighting oil lamps with trembling fingers. Now you're wiping surfaces already clean. Now you're rearranging items that were perfectly arranged moments before. You carry shoes from front rooms to back rooms, then back again. You clean the shoes. You polish the floors where they stood. You polish the floors where they'll stand next. You can't recall when you last spoke. Can't remember the last time you sat longer than a breath. The hours blur into one endless stretch of motion, carrying, lifting, bending, all while your hands ache and your knees feel hollow. A bead of sweat trickles down your spine into your waistband. You let it. The air presses down like a physical weight. Shadows flicker across walls as lamps are lit. The house hums with its constant undercurrent. Footsteps, cutlery, rustling paper, chair legs scraping tile. You've become part of this hum now, not a voice, not a presence, just another movement in the machinery. You continue not because you're told to, but because stopping has ceased to be an option your body recognizes. There's no signal marking the day's end. No boundary between effort and collapse. Just one task bleeding into the next after that. You start forgetting what any of it means. You move because movement is expected. You clean because things must always be clean. You exist in perpetual motion because stillness might remind someone you're here. You begin understanding the hierarchy above you. Everyone, not just the pale-skinned masters floating above the household like untouchable clouds, but the entire structure, every titled servant, every cook and steward and houseboy who's been here longer. Everyone wearing shoes. Everyone who doesn't flinch when addressed. Everyone who knows the invisible borders and enforces them. The British men bark commands, not necessarily from anger, but because that's how they've been conditioned to speak to those beneath them. Like trainers addressing dogs. Like men shouting at the wind. Their words come clipped, often unclear, yet you're expected to comprehend. One orders a passage cleared, then grows irritated when you move the wrong chair. Another flings a crumpled shirt at your feet. Press this properly, though no one's shown you where the iron's kept. You nod. You bow slightly. You never answer. That's safest. The British women speak quieter but no softer, through clenched teeth, behind fluttering fans, with narrowed eyes and sharpened tones. You rarely see their full faces, just glimpses over handkerchiefs, around corners, through doorways left ajar. They don't request, they announce, "This is cold. This has too much starch. This isn't what I asked for." The words hang in the air, waiting for someone to catch them. If it's you, you act. If not, you still move. It's safer to err through overwork than neglect. There's a Chinese foreman controlling supplies, name unknown. He keeps ledgers and keys, speaks 5 languages fluidly. When he enters rooms, others exit. When he points, you move. When he raises an eyebrow, you lower your head. He never raises his voice. Never needs to. His authority stems from quiet certainty and the unspoken threat behind every glance. You never witness him working, only watching others work. Somehow that's worse. In the kitchen, the Tamil cook barely tolerates your presence. She mutters while chopping, her knife never pausing. When you reach for a bowl, she snatches it first. When you sweep, she re-sweeps behind you. Once you ask where lentils are kept, just a simple question, and she doesn't even look up. If you've time to talk, you're not working. The others nod. You don't ask again. Even the 12-year-old fanning the upstairs study outranks you. He moves with bored confidence, doesn't yield when you pass in halls. Once he casually mentions how towels should be stacked, you comply. He never thanks you. That's not his role. You try deciphering the rules. Not written ones. There are none. But the shifting web of expectations governing every glance and gesture. You learn who eats first and who last. Which tasks draw scrutiny and which go unnoticed. How to walk without sound. How to avoid carrying odors into the master's wing. How to hold your tongue when requests are thinly veiled commands. There's hierarchy even in sleep. The better mats claimed by seniors or bullies. You don't ask. You curl in your corner each night near the storeroom where rats scratch walls and kerosene hangs thick. You dream of your mother's village, of courtyards and coconut oil combed through hair, then wake to the floor's unyielding reminder. One afternoon, the Englishman's dog dashes through the courtyard, knocking over a bucket. Water spills across tiles into garden soil. You drop your rag, rush to clean. Not your fault, but blame flows downward here like everything else. That night, the foreman scolds you for wasted water. You bow your head. Never mention the dog. That would be unwise. You don't speak unless addressed. Even then, you measure each word like currency, because they are. Wrong words mean extra labor. Wrong tones mean punishment. Silence is safest. The only sounds you're expected to make are brushes scraping tile, porcelain clinking on trays, doors creaking just enough for others to pass. You start feeling yourself shrink, not physically, but inwardly, as if every question you once carried has been folded and stored beyond reach. You no longer wonder why things are done certain ways. No longer ask what month it is. Your world has narrowed to rooms and thresholds and expectations. Trays must face specific directions. Curtains must be drawn halfway. You obey not from agreement, but because it's the only way to stay invisible. The compound feels larger than it first appeared. Rooms opening into rooms, none marked. Some doors stay always closed. Others swing open randomly, offering surreal glimpses, silverware-laden tables, British women dabbing necks, pale feet dangling from chairs. You don't look long enough to be caught staring. You keep your head down, hands at your sides. That seems safest. By late afternoon, your legs shake from standing. Your stomach aches dully. Not sharp hunger, just hollow persistence. You pass a corridor where servants crouch eating from metal bowls. No one offers you space. You don't ask. You're not even sure you're counted among them yet. You move on. Eventually, the older servant finds you again, gesturing wordlessly to follow. He leads through corridors back to servants' quarters where fading sun yellows white walls. He opens a door, points to a corner where a rolled mat lies beside a cracked bowl and cloth bundle. You understand, this is where you'll sleep. You nod, but he's already walking away. Closing the door, you sit carefully. The mat offers no cushion. The floor feels harder than it looks. Stretching brings little relief. Your body already feels used, not from one day's labor, but from countless identical days ahead. Outside, birds call, one sharp whistle, a chorus, then silence. Not comforting silence. The kind that makes you feel oceans away from anywhere you've belonged. Lying back, you mind your elbows against the hard floor. Humid air clings like second skin. Mildew and dust scent every breath. Closing your eyes, you avoid thoughts of home, not from forgetting, but because remembering hurts more than forgetting. Your first day ends with your body sore, your spirit diminished. You wake before the bell rings, not by choice. Your body no longer remembers proper sleep. It rests like animals do, tense and shallow, ready to move before being told. You begin attempting to comprehend the languages swirling around you. It seems the natural thing to do, straining your ears for familiar patterns, grasping for linguistic anchors in this sea of foreign sounds. Tamil was your mother tongue, and at first this feels like it might suffice. A handful of others speak it too, or something close. Telugu, Malayalam, words shaped similarly enough to bridge meaning across the gaps. But even they use it sparingly now, their tongues grown cautious, their communication relying more on glances and gestures than spoken words. The house becomes a collision of languages. English drips from the master's lips like thick molasses, vowels stretched in unfamiliar directions, consonants snapping in unexpected places. You there, always half an octave louder than necessary, always commanding. You learn their tone carries more meaning than vocabulary itself. A drawn-out syllable signaling disapproval, a sudden pitch rise indicating urgency. You memorize these rhythms before understanding a single complete sentence. Then there's Hokkien, rapid, nasal, always half a sentence ahead of itself. It dominates the kitchen, the storeroom, the back courtyard. The Chinese servants use it among themselves, to mock each other, to laugh in a way that feels dangerous. You catch repeating fragments, names, chores, insults. You never ask what they mean. You nod when appropriate, and keep your hands busy. The less you seem to need translation, the safer you remain. Malay floats through the air like wood smoke, softening edges. The gatekeeper uses it with delivery men. The washerwoman mutters it to herself while hanging linens. It's the language of in-between spaces, alleys, thresholds, back gates. You pick up words for hot, wait, faster, and no, the ones you hear most often. Enough to move when ordered, enough to stay out of trouble. Even Tamil sounds different here. You speak it, but only in hushed tones, carefully, as if too much might further mark you as an outsider. The accent shifts from mouth to mouth, the rhythm altered by exhaustion. You stop expecting comfort from familiar syllables. You use it only when necessary, trimming sentences to their barest bones. It becomes utilitarian, a tool, never a comfort. There are moments when everything blends together, when 5 voices overlap in 4 languages and the command gets lost in the noise. You stand frozen, uncertain which instruction is meant for you. Once, 2 orders come simultaneously, one in English, one in Hokkien. You move toward the wrong one. A hand grabs your shoulder, spins you sharply the other way. No explanation given. A slap follows, not hard, but fast, without hesitation. The sting lingers longer than the mark. You bow and quicken your pace. It happens again days later. You're stacking firewood outside the kitchen when the cook says something in English. Thinking she wants more, you bring more. She frowns, repeats herself, louder, slower, as if you're defective. You stand motionless. Another servant translates into a Tamil-Malay hybrid. She hadn't wanted more. She wanted you to stop. The cook sighs, mutters. You try mimicking others, copying their posture, their pace, their responses. When someone barks, you nod. When someone gestures, you obey. You stop asking questions, not because you've learned enough, but because questions reveal ignorance. And ignorance here isn't met with patience, just disapproval, just more work. Over time, the noise becomes a kind of weather. You stop interpreting, stop distinguishing one language from another. It all blends into pressure inside your skull, a stream of commands, complaints, clipped announcements. You hear your name less and less. Sometimes because they don't know it. Sometimes because they can't be bothered. You become boy, him, or nothing at all. Once, a child refers to you as the brown one. No one corrects her. You retreat into silence, not deliberately at first, but gradually, like wading backward into deep water. It feels safer this way. If you don't speak, you can't speak wrongly. If you don't answer, you can't answer poorly. Your silence becomes a shield. Thin, imperfect, but better than exposure. You speak only when given no alternative, and even then your words emerge clipped and flat. You stop using complete sentences. Stop greeting others unless greeted first. Most don't. The other servants seem to respect this quiet, or at least don't challenge it. They have their own silences, their own linguistic wounds. You notice them biting back words, hesitating when someone speaks too quickly or cruelly. You observe how few ever speak before the masters unless prompted. Even the foreman keeps his English minimal, preferring gestures and glances. It's not about pride, it's self-preservation. Once you try writing, just your name in Tamil, traced in dust with your fingertip. You stare at the letters, then wipe them away before anyone sees. You're not sure why you did it. Perhaps to remember what your voice once looked like. Perhaps to test if it still belonged to you. It doesn't. The punishments, when they come, rarely explain themselves. A missed command means double work. A slow response earns a slap or a night without food. No one tells you what you misunderstood. They simply correct you, bluntly, swiftly, leaving no room for apology. You learn more from bruises than words. Pain becomes its own grammar. You start flinching in the right directions. Eventually, you stop trying. Stop reaching for meaning. The sounds keep coming, and you let them wash over you like rain. You act when someone moves toward you. Obey when voices rise. Nod, crouch, scrub, lift by instinct. You no longer expect to understand. And in this house, that's considered enough. You're shown where servants eat. Not by any official, not with kindness or ceremony. You simply follow the smells of starch and smoke one evening and find others crouched near the back steps, already halfway through their meal. They don't speak to you. One glances up, jerks his chin toward an empty corner, then returns to his rice. There's no table, no bench, just a low brick ledge slick with years of grease and rain. You sit carefully, legs stiff from work, stomach hollow and complaining. A tin plate is passed to you with cold rice and something brown, vegetables maybe, or yesterday's meat. It smells faintly fermented, but you eat it anyway. Sometimes there's dried fish, tiny twisted things that crunch between your teeth and leave your mouth dry. Other times, you get only what others couldn't finish. Yam skins, bread crusts left out too long. Once, you're handed a half-rotten banana. You eat it, peel and all. No one comments. Everyone's done the same. The food isn't portioned by hunger, but by position. Senior servants eat first and take more. Those nearest the kitchen have quicker hands, sharper elbows. You eat last, unless someone forgets you entirely. Once, you arrive to find nothing but an empty pot and a few rice grains stuck to the rim. You scoop them up with your fingers, lick your palm, then return to work without a word. Water comes from a shared bucket near the stove, dipped with an unwashed cup. The taste varies, sometimes metallic, sometimes sweet with rot, sometimes tinged with ash. You drink because there's no alternative. Clean waters for the family, boiled waters for guests. Leftovers are for you. You eat quickly, not from eagerness, but necessity. Lingering means less for others. Lingering too long might be mistaken for rest. Your hands move faster than your jaws. You barely chew. The food sits heavy, like guilt. There's no pleasure in eating, just relief, just the brief absence of hunger. Then comes sleep, or something resembling it. Your bed is a mat near the kitchen fire, often damp, always smelling of smoke and grease. Sometimes, when the kitchen's too hot or the floor's too crowded, you lie on bare boards behind the storeroom. Rats scurry in the rafters above. Mosquitoes whine at your ears. Your body no longer stretches out fully. You curl instinctively, like a child bracing for blows. The mat's so thin you feel every floorboard beneath. Your shoulders ache before your eyes close. You wrap your arms around yourself, not for warmth, but to keep your hands from twitching open, still reaching for trays, buckets, rags. You sleep in the clothes you worked in. There's no time or privacy to change. Sometimes you wake gasping, unsure if it was a nightmare or your own body panicking. You hear footsteps and mistake them for summons. You sit up too fast, knock your head on a shelf, and realize it's still night. Or maybe not. Time blurs when there are no clocks, no routines beyond exhaustion. Dreams come, but they don't comfort. Mostly you dream of movement, walking, lifting, crouching. You dream of repeating tasks endlessly, never getting them right. In these dreams, buckets spill, plates break, stains won't lift. No one shouts. The silence is worse. Sometimes, though, you dream of home. Not full memories, just fragments. A courtyard glimpse. A voice calling your name. The feel of earth beneath bare feet instead of tile. You wake with your chest aching. You wish you dreamed of buckets instead. Illness moves through the compound like an uninvited guest, persistent, inevitable, and utterly indifferent to those it claims. You notice it first in the subtle changes. The way people walk slower on certain mornings, how hands tremble while lifting pails, the extra heartbeat of hesitation before kneeling to scrub floors. You see it in the sweat stains darkening tunics at dawn, long before the sun has climbed high enough to justify them. The first time it truly registers, a laundry boy collapses beside the stove. One moment he's wringing sheets. The next he's slumped forward, face pressed to steaming tiles. No one screams. No one panics. The woman beside him finishes folding her towel before calling for help. Two men carry him out. Where? You don't ask. He doesn't return the next day, or the day after. A week later, someone new stands in his spot, scrubbing linens with the same motions. No explanation given. The rhythm never falters. You start paying closer attention. A rash hidden beneath sleeves. A cough muffled into shoulders. A servant limping across courtyards, steps uneven, face pale. One woman spends an afternoon vomiting behind the latrine wall, then returns to sweeping as if nothing happened. Her hands shake. Her lips stay sealed. The work continues. No one stops for illness here. There's no system for that. No sick days, no recovery time. If your body fails, someone else is handed your tasks. If no one's available, your work goes undone and everyone near you suffers instead. You learn quickly that falling behind is contagious, even if your fever isn't. Fatigue spreads through proximity. Resentment spreads faster. You hear words whispered: malaria, ringworm, dengue, never from the sufferers themselves, always from those who've seen too many disappear. The terms hover like ghosts, half warning, half resignation, passed between servants like gossip, but without the malice. No one blames the sick. They just understand that admitting weakness is dangerous. You watch how others adapt. One man leans heavier on his broom than he sweeps with it, but no one comments as long as the hallway looks clean. Another soaks her rag in scalding water and presses it to a festering sore when no one's looking. A boy eats raw garlic in secret, convinced it'll keep his lungs clear. People develop quiet rituals of survival, desperate, unspoken. Some don't adapt. They vanish. It always starts with an absence. Someone doesn't show for morning chores. Their mat stays tightly rolled by the kitchen wall. Their cup goes untouched. No one mentions it aloud, but you feel the shift in the air. By day's end, a replacement arrives. No introductions, no explanations. They're simply folded into the pattern like a patch on threadbare cloth. You forget the old name quickly. The new one barely registers. The heat makes everything worse. It presses down, thick and unmoving. The house's fans are reserved for the family. Out here, air hangs like wet laundry. You see people falter, not just from sickness, but from sheer exhaustion. It builds slowly, a dropped plate, a missed command, a step taken half a second too late. There's always someone watching, waiting to correct the error. The punishments vary. Sometimes it's a sharp slap across the cheek, a kick to the ribs, a day without food, a night spent standing. Sometimes worse, kneeling in direct sunlight, lashes from a belt's edge, soap forced into a mouth that spoke out of turn. None of it's formal. There are no rules, just the foreman's mood, the master's temper, the sheer bad luck of being noticed at the wrong moment. You learn the worst punishment isn't physical, it's public shame, being singled out before others, explaining yourself in broken English, repeating mistakes under watchful eyes, being made to kneel for hours not to correct anything, but to remind everyone what happens when work isn't done quickly enough, quietly enough, perfectly enough. You see it in the others too, the way they move with caution beyond fatigue, stiffen when voices rise, glance sideways when plates shatter. Every servant here was trained by watching someone else suffer. The lessons pass through silence, through flinches, through bruises never acknowledged. Sometimes punishments are collective. One missing spoon makes the entire kitchen scrub floors twice. A late tea service means every hallway gets inspected with the foreman's tapping cane. You've seen someone punished for not standing straight enough, another for breathing too loudly near sleeping guests. These aren't corrections. They're reminders that no one's safe, that anyone could be next. The fear never leaves, even when you've done nothing wrong. Especially then. You rehearse apologies in your head preemptively, just in case you're accused. You learn to read irritation in the set of a master's shoulders before they speak. You understand that being right matters less than appearing obedient. That truth won't protect you, but quick reflexes and a bowed head might. One afternoon, the study fan breaks. The master blames the servant on duty, though he wasn't the last to touch it. Everyone knew the fan had been sputtering for weeks. Doesn't matter. The servant's ordered to kneel in the courtyard until further notice. The sun's high. The bricks are hot. You pass by with a water bucket, keeping your eyes forward, but you see his hands trembling, see sweat pooling under his jaw. He stays until sunset. Returns the next day with cracked lips and a stitched cut behind one ear. No one asks what happened. You try not to dwell on these things. Not because they don't matter, but because thinking makes you slower, makes you hesitate, makes you visible. You keep movement smooth, voice low, head down. You learn to anticipate anger before it lands. You realize most punishments stem not from cruelty, but from boredom, inconvenience, the slow itch of power needing to scratch itself. Once, a servant tries protesting. She didn't leave the gate open, was in the kitchen the whole time. It couldn't have been her. The foreman listens, then assigns her double duties for a week for talking back. She scrubs latrine floors for 3 nights without meals. The others say nothing. You say nothing. You don't even look at her directly. It's not shame, it's survival. The system works because it has to. Everyone moves faster, stands straighter, responds to the bell's first ring. It doesn't create obedience. It breeds anxiety dressed as order. And because punishments are uneven, sometimes delayed, sometimes arbitrary, they keep you guessing. And guessing keeps you afraid. When the new boy breaks a plate 3 weeks later, you already know what's coming. He tries explaining. He slipped, the floor was wet, he meant no harm. He says it in Tamil, too fast, too frightened. The foreman doesn't yell, just nods toward the storeroom. The boy's gone by nightfall. His mat's unrolled the next morning by someone else. And the house is clean again. You hear it first as a murmur while hauling ash to the rubbish trench. A man on the path muttering something urgent in Malay to another. Too quick to catch fully, but the rhythm sticks. That rhythm's always the same, fear braided with excitement. The words slip through wooden slats, too low to decipher, but strong enough to linger. Something's happening, or will happen, or should have happened already. Later, scrubbing steps near the garden gate, you overhear a rickshaw boy speaking to a washerwoman, more cautious this time, constantly glancing over his shoulder. The word strike lands with weight, even whispered. He says it like a secret. You pause just a moment, long enough to feel it, not long enough to draw notice. By the time you stand, he's gone. The washerwoman hums like nothing was said. Over the next days, you notice more fragments. Market men speaking lower, messages passed hand to hand without paper. Delivery workers linger longer, exchanging glances instead of coins. Once you catch a name, someone who stood up, someone taken away. No one says where. Or if they know, they're not telling. The servants mention it rarely, and only in safest corners, by outdoor drains when no one's near, behind storeroom walls where echoes don't carry. One claims dock workers are refusing orders. Another swears a British club foreman was stabbed. You don't know what's true. Truth's hard to measure here. Most things are guesses stitched from fear and silence. But the feeling builds. Not among the masters. They don't speak of it at all. But among the invisible hands carrying buckets and lifting crates. There's tension beneath the routine now. A flicker of awareness. You see it in how often someone checks over their shoulder, how firmly tools are passed. Not anger yet. Just something beginning to uncoil. You imagine the compound gates staying shut one morning. Buckets left full. Sheets unwashed. No one polishing brass or carrying trays. You picture the silence that would follow. Not peace, but confusion. Their voices rising not in command, but uncertainty. You don't let yourself imagine it long. It's not useful, but the thought lingers. The masters discuss nothing unusual, just trade shipments. Weather, someone's cousin arriving from Penang. They speak of the city like it's theirs, as if it couldn't turn against them, as if the hands washing their linens are incapable of letting go. Once a guest mentions a riot, the word drops like a spoon. He laughs it off, adds, "Not here, of course. Here they know better." No one disagrees. The conversation shifts effortlessly. You stand in the corner holding a pitcher. No one looks at you. You want to ask what's truly happening beyond these walls. But the ones who might know, delivery men, street vendors, ice carriers, come and go like smoke. You're not allowed to linger near them, not even for a heartbeat. You start listening more intently during backgate errands, tuning your ears to background noise, scanning faces for signs, something wild in the eyes, something said in jaws. Now, and then you think you see it. But it's hard to tell. Everyone's tired. Everyone looks through you. Even those who might have once been like you have somewhere else to be. The house remains unchanged. Curtains drawn same hours. Steps scrubbed same patterns. Master's boots echoing through halls same as ever. His wife still calls for tea she won't drink. The baby still cries. The dog still barks. The window still opens at dawn to let in heat. The routines march forward untouched. It's like living in a sealed jar, sound filters in, but nothing else. No smoke, no fire, just heat suggestion. One night, someone claims to have heard shouting in the streets. Not close, but not far. A clatter like something breaking. But when you listen, there's just frogs and a distant cartwheel's grind. The foreman walks the courtyard soon after, arms crossed, eyes sharp. He says nothing, but his presence speaks volumes. No one mentions it again. You wonder if anyone will tell you when something real happens. If a strike succeeds, if a riot spreads, if a gate burns. Or if it'll all end before starting. The world returning to what it was, the anger erased like it never was. You wonder if someone will whisper the news, or if you'll simply know because someone doesn't return tomorrow. You dream of it once, a full stop. Buckets overturned. Doors locked from inside. No one answering bells. Masters pacing confused. The house still for once. Not from cleanliness, but absence. You wake sweating before the dream ends. Nothing's changed. The kitchen smells the same. The mop waits in its corner. The sky lightens with same pale indifference. The gate stays shut. The guards stand straight. The house hums on, oblivious or indifferent to what stirs just beyond its walls. It never reaches your gate. One morning, someone simply doesn't appear to scrub the entryway tiles. At first, no bells ring, no shouts echo, but something feels off, like a skipped note in an overplayed song. You glance toward the laundry path. No one's there. The mop bucket sits dry. By noon, you're certain she's not returning. She was older than most, quieter too. You never learned her name. No one introduced her when she arrived. No one will mention her now that she's gone. You'd shared the water basin sometimes. Once, she'd handed you a lump of boiled yam without speaking. Another time, she helped you lift a stuck trunk lid before the foreman noticed. She never smiled, but she didn't look through you like others did. That meant something. You ask no questions, you know better. The others know too. One or two glance at her empty sleeping space before lying down. One whispers something. Maybe a prayer, maybe just a thought that refused to stay silent. But no one asks where she went. Illness perhaps. Punishment. Something else that doesn't matter now. The foreman ignores her absence. The laundry duties get reassigned. Meals continue. The rhythm doesn't break. By evening, a replacement is let in. Younger, thinner, her arms scratched, her oversized blouse hanging loose on narrow shoulders. She stands by the courtyard door, eyes down, hands clasped over her stomach. She doesn't meet your gaze. She looks like you once did, before your voice faded into silence, before your movements turned cautious by habit. She doesn't speak your language, Tamil maybe, or something close, but not quite. She stares at instructions like they're smoke. When told to sweep the side corridor, she moves uncertainly. You pass her carrying a coal bucket and nod slightly. She doesn't nod back. She'll learn, the way you did. At dinner, she eats too slowly, trying to chew everything thoroughly. No one tells her not to. The trick is swallowing fast before someone claims your plate. She doesn't get seconds. She won't tomorrow either. By her third day, she moves more efficiently, carries water without spilling, scrubs without pausing. The foreman notices, but says nothing. That's how approval works here, through absence. No praise, no beatings, no extra tasks, just continued existence. You catch yourself thinking of the one before her, the older woman. You remember how her joints cracked when she crouched, how she wrapped cloth around her wrists before scrubbing. You wonder if she left in pain or silence, if anyone helped her, if she made it past the compound walls, if there's any place outside for people like her. But no one speaks of the disappeared. That would slow things down. The replacement system runs smoothly. You don't know who manages it. The foreman perhaps, or someone above him. It never takes long. A mat gets rolled up. A space cleared. A name struck from some invisible ledger. The next day, another body fills the gap. They never arrive with belongings. No questions are asked. Some replacements come from nearby, others from farther, Burma, India, Java. It doesn't matter. The tasks stay the same. The training identical. The silence unbroken. You start noticing patterns in how disappearances unfold. First the cough, then the stumble, then the missed chore, then whispers of disobedience, then the space where a person used to be. It's never marked. No farewells. The only ceremony is replacement speed. Once, a boy collapses by the water trough. You're nearby polishing brass when it happens. He clutches his chest, gasps once, then folds sideways. No one screams. The foreman barks orders. Two older servants drag him behind the storeroom by his arms. You don't see where they take him after. The trough gets scrubbed twice before anyone uses it again. Next morning, the boy's name isn't called. A new one's already being shown how to tie apron strings properly. The older servants glance once, then return to folding linens. You learn not to stare, not to count the missing. The silence around it all grows so complete that sometimes you doubt your own memory. Did that cough really happen? That fall? Those dragging limbs? But the rhythm tells the truth. The rhythm always replaces. You catch a cold one week. Nothing severe, just enough to ache in the joints and clog your ears. You keep working. No limping. No coughing where ears can hear. You drink extra water at night. Breathe through your mouth so the rattling doesn't carry. The fear isn't the illness itself, it's being noticed. The newer girl starts coughing days later, less skilled at hiding it. She slows. The foreman watches. You consider saying something, but don't. Can't. The moment passes like they all do. She's gone within the week. Another girl arrives, shorter, fewer scratches. She doesn't speak your language either. Eventually, you stop tracking them. Not because it doesn't matter, but because it happens too often. Like rain, like bleach smells, like the bell ringing for someone else's meal. You wonder what will happen when you vanish. Will anyone pause? Will someone take your bucket before the water evaporates? Will the floors remember your footsteps? Probably not. The only trace you'll leave might be the callus on a broom handle, and even that will smooth away with time. You dream of leaving something behind, a scrap of cloth, a carved mark under a bench, a single word etched where no one looks. But you don't. There's no time, no safety in memory. Best not to linger. New ones come, old ones vanish. The house, the compound, the empire, it all continues. It always does. One morning, the rhythm falters, not from absence, but from something inside you, a tightness in the chest, a weakness in the grip, a stumble that won't correct itself. And just like that, you stop wondering about disappearances, because now it's you. It begins with the weight, not one moment, not one injury, just mornings piling upon meals that never nourish upon tasks that never finish. You're bent over the basin, wringing a sheet that will never be truly clean when your arms stop responding. The weight shifts. Your grip slips. Your knees bend too far, then refuse to bend back. You land awkwardly, hip cracking against stone, water sloshing across your tunic. For a second, you think you can rise. You reach for the basin's edge, but your hands won't close properly. Your legs feel detached. Your head swims, not dizziness, but drowning. You blink. Try again. The floor rises to meet you. Someone notices. Maybe. A voice sounds, sharp, irritated, not alarmed. A shout, but not for help. For order, for movement. Slippers smack wet tiles. Another bucket drops. Another voice, clipped, hurried, but not frightened. No one kneels. No one checks your breath. No one says your name, not even the wrong one. Someone steps over you, careful but indifferent, like avoiding a stain that hasn't dried. Time warps on the floor. You attempt sitting, your spine's gone soft. Your skin feels 2 sizes too big. You can't tell if you're sweating or if the spilled water's just soaking through. Everything smells like soap and iron. Your tongue tastes like boiled coins. A fly buzzes near your ear. You don't swat it. Eventually, hands grip your arms. Not gentle, not cruel, just efficient. You're lifted by the wrists, feet dragging behind. Your heel knocks something, a crate, maybe a stone. It doesn't hurt. You've slipped below pain now, below explanation, below presence. They drag you through the compound's rear, not the front path where officers or ladies might see. No one comments. No one watches. This isn't scandal. This isn't worth attention. This is just a problem being relocated somewhere less inconvenient. The stones are uneven. You feel each one through your ribs. The heat doesn't burn anymore. It sits on your skin like thick fabric. You blink against the sun. It blinks back, unconcerned. You're left at the ground's edge, not past the gate, not inside either. Where boundaries blur with weeds and waste. Where servants sometimes vomit unseen. Where laundry water gets dumped. Where things no longer useful tend to collect. They don't speak to you. They don't say where help is coming. They don't say anything. You're not addressed. You're placed. The ground's warm. Dust coats your teeth. You breathe shallowly. It's easier that way. Deeper breaths bring the ache. The kind that wraps your chest like twine pulled tight. You close your eyes. Not to sleep. Just to stop seeing the compound's white wall. Just to stop measuring its distance. Someone walks past carrying linens, doesn't pause. You don't blame them. You wouldn't either. There's a patch of shadow from a leaning beam. It doesn't reach your face, but softens the glare. Ants crawl nearby, avoiding your fingers. A lizard scurries across stone near your head. You don't move. A breeze stirs. You can't tell if it brings relief or just carries your scent farther away. Hours pass. Or maybe they don't. Time loses shape here. You drift in and out, not sleeping, not conscious. No dreams come. There's no energy left to imagine. Just flickers, scrubbing the entryway, hearing someone laugh, an unexpected bite of yam. The face of the woman who came before you. You wonder if she ended here too. You think someone checks once, a figure in the distance standing still, then turning back. Maybe you imagined it. Maybe they did too. By nightfall, the compound's lights burn undisturbed. A bell rings inside. Another meal, another shift, another replacement tucked into the hall. No one calls for you. No one asks. Your mouth is dry, but you don't feel thirst anymore. Your limbs are heavy, but the pain's grown distant, like a voice through 2 walls. Your body's forgetting itself. Your breath thins. Your awareness dims. You lie still, not in protest, not in despair. Just stillness, because movement no longer belongs to you. There will be no burial, no rites, no notice. If you're moved again, it'll be by the same hands that moved buckets and chairs and firewood. If you're seen again, it'll be as something to sweep around. No one will speak of you. No one will say you were here. And yet you were. By morning, someone else stands where you once stood. You're not buried. You're not mentioned. You're simply absent. The uniform that clung to your back gets washed. The mat you slept on gets dusted. The bucket you carried is now in another's hands. He looks younger, thinner, nervous the way you once were. His shoulders twitch at the bell's ring. He'll learn soon enough. No one says your name. No one stumbles over it. No one avoids it. It isn't avoided, it's forgotten. Whatever syllables once summoned you now hold no weight. They evaporate unspoken, as though they never lived in anyone's throat. You're not mourned. You're not cursed. You're not even noted. The house doesn't change. Curtains are drawn at the same hour. steps are scrubbed in the same pattern, circular, clockwise, until stains surrender. The master still walks hallways with boots that echo on tile. His wife still calls for tea she won't drink. The baby still cries. The dog still barks. The window still opens at dawn to let in heat. The routines march forward untouched. Floors don't remember whose hands cleaned them. Meals don't remember whose back bent over coals. Walls don't remember whose breath warmed their silence. Even other servants don't speak, not because they don't care, but because they can't afford to. They lower their eyes passing the rear courtyard. They eat quickly when seated near the empty space by the fire. They sleep without turning toward the mat that hasn't been reassigned yet. They feel the absence but don't name it. To name it would invite it. The new servant isn't told your story because there is no story. There's just a task list, a shift schedule, a rotation of bodies. He's corrected when folding cloth wrong. He's slapped when forgetting laundry steps. He flinches at raised voices. He's already starting to understand. Outside, the same birds circle the same fruit trees. The same cracked fence leans at the same angle. The same dogs fight in the same alley near the latrine. You're not missed by them either. They don't change their paths. They don't slow. Time moves differently in places like this. Not faster, not slower, just without notice. Days pass because bells ring, because light shifts on floorboards, because basins fill again, because uniforms must be scrubbed again, because life continues on a loop so tight it never looks over its shoulder. The British family won't recall you. Years later, they may mention that Indian boy or the one before this one, but it'll be vague. A footnote in memory, a shadow mistaken for furniture. They won't remember your face, your voice, the moment you slipped. They were never looking that closely. Their records will be intact, the estate documented, the steward's wages, their children's tutors' names. Photographs will show the veranda, the garden, the parlor arranged just so. No one will point out the blurred figure in the corner, bent, carrying a tray, eyes downcast. History will remember the estate, its architecture, its economic role, its place in the growing empire. It'll be discussed in books, lectures, catalogs. There may even be praise for how orderly it was, how well run. No footnotes will list how many servants it consumed. You're not written down. You're not carved. You're not etched. Your name's not recorded. You're not traced through census or wills. You're not mourned in ink. You're not remembered by the house or the street or the city. Not even the soil holds your shape. And yet you were there. You stood at the basin. You scrubbed the uniform. You lifted the bucket. You held the heat in your lungs. You dragged your feet across thresholds you weren't allowed to pause on. You existed, briefly, quietly, entirely, and now you're gone. That brings us to the end of tonight's slow, heat-soaked passage through a life meant to vanish. If you're still listening, thank you for bearing witness to someone who was never meant to be seen, whose story was folded into the laundry and swept out with the ashes. The air in your own room probably feels different now, lighter, cooler, carrying none of the lime soap and kerosene stench that permeated those servant quarters. The floor beneath you isn't tile worn smooth by bare feet, but whatever surface you've chosen to rest upon as these words reached you. That distance between his reality and yours is precisely what makes this act of listening matter. You could have turned away at any point. When the boy died on the ship, when the first slap landed, when the cough began its inevitable work. But you didn't. For these minutes, you held space for a soul the Empire tried to erase. That resistance, your attention as rebellion, is how we begin reclaiming these silenced histories. Perhaps now, when you see period dramas with their grand colonial estates, you'll notice the absence more than the presence. The missing figures who polished those gleaming banisters, the hands that boiled water for the master's bath, the faces that never appeared in family portraits. Maybe you'll wonder about their coughs, their aching knees, the children they left behind. That questioning is how we honor them. If this story has settled under your skin, if you can still feel the weight of that half-filled water bucket in your palms, consider what other histories might be waiting at the edges of official records. The dock workers who loaded imperial tea, the women who wove textiles in sweltering factories, The nameless thousands whose labor built cities they weren't permitted to walk through as free people. Their ghosts linger in archives' margins, in the blank spaces between ledger entries, in the unrecorded dialects swallowed by colonial languages. This particular telling may end here, but the work continues. Every time we pause to acknowledge what was designed to be overlooked, every instance we strain to hear the echoes in silence, we disrupt the empire's careful accounting. They documented teacups and silverware down to the last spoon, while entire human beings vanished without notation. Our attention becomes the counterledger. You might forget details by tomorrow, whether the uniform had 3 missing buttons or 4, which fruit tree shaded the courtyard, how many days passed between the cough starting and the mat being rolled up. But I hope the weight remains. That when you next encounter some polished surface, a museum display, a heritage building, even a history textbook, you'll run your fingers along it wondering whose cloth buffed it to shine. The house still stands in Singapore, though perhaps repurposed, its floors no longer scrubbed by indentured hands. The empire that built it has crumbled, its myths of civility now fraying at the edges. But the patterns established there, the hierarchies, the calculated invisibility of essential labor, they persist in new configurations. Recognizing them is our first defense. So take this story with you, not as a relic, but as a lens. Notice who still occupies the corners of restaurants, construction sites, delivery hubs. Mark the languages swallowed by global tongues. Observe which pains go unmentioned until they become inconvenient. The systems haven't disappeared, they've simply learned new dialects. And if this narrative has left you restless, if the injustice sits like a stone in your chest, consider that discomfort a gift. It means your moral compass still points true. Channel it toward contemporary equivalents. The migrant workers building World Cup stadiums, the garment workers sewing fast fashion, the domestic helpers sending remittances from foreign households. Their stories are still being written. We can still intervene. For now, as the last echoes of this account fade, I'll leave you with one final image. Not of the servant's body being dragged away, but of his hands in motion, scrubbing, lifting, folding. Remember the skill in those actions, the precision developed under duress, the quiet dignity of work done well even when it went unseen. That, too, is resistance. The empire wanted his life to be small, confined to corners, reduced to function, erased without trace. By listening, you've already defied that design. Whatever you do with this story next, whether you share it, research further, or simply carry its weight, you've become part of ensuring he doesn't vanish completely. Sleep may not come easily tonight. Let it not come lightly. The best honors we can offer the forgotten are wide-awake remembrance and the resolve to do differently. Tomorrow's dawn will break regardless. But now, perhaps, you'll notice whose hands first greeted it.